Hope you're good. Just looking at the latest wave of Iran-Israel escalation. It's 5:43 a.m. in the morning, and broadcasting from West Africa to the world here, just to give you a latest update regarding what we know about the latest development between Israel and Iran. All right. So far, Israel has launched a barrage of missiles at Israel. Iran has launched a barrage of missiles at Israel. Air raid sirens have been heard across the country, including Jerusalem. Multiple injuries have been reported in Tel Aviv. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has vowed to destroy Israel. The strikes were a retaliation to Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities early on Friday. Those attacks came after Iran had fired dozens of drones at Israel after vowing severe punishment. US President Donald Trump had earlier warned that Iran must take a deal before there's nothing left. German Chancellor Merz has called for steps towards de-escalation. Iran, Israel, Lebanon, and Iraq have closed their airspaces. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington was not involved in the Israeli strikes on Iran. All right, it's the latest development regarding that. The Israeli military's home fronts command says civilians can leave bomb shelters after Iran's third barrage of ballistic missiles on Israel, but they should remain close to them until further notice is set. In a separate statement, the IDF said dozens of missiles had been fired in the latest salvo from Iran. Some of the missiles were intercepted. Search and rescue forces are currently operating in a number of locations across the country in which reports of falling projectiles were received, it added. Israel's emergency service, Magen David Adom, said that one of its mobile units was hit by shrapnel in the Tel Aviv area, and two crew sustained minor injuries. All right, that's the latest from that. But let's just tell you the extent of damage that these strikes may have caused Iran, as the case may be. We're talking about the fact that there are some military heads, more than 10 of them, have been assassinated by Israeli strikes, and that's quite unprecedented. Iran's highest ranking military officer, the head of its elite Revolutionary Guards Corps, and its Air Force, and the former national security chief have all been killed in Israel's unprecedented Operation Rising Lion. Their death will send shockwaves through the nation's military establishment and could seriously hamper the Islamic Republic's ability to respond to Israel's attacks. Here's what this channel knows. As the head of the security, Major General Hussein Salami was one of the people who was killed in that strike, and he is the head of the secretive Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Major General Hussein Salami. He was one of the most powerful men in Iran, overseeing its most potent military arm and reporting directly to its supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Born in 1960, according to a U.S. sanctions docket, Salami had headed the secretive and IRGC since 2019. The position saw him helming one of the most powerful tools wielded by the Iranian state, which has been instrumental in crushing dissent at home and projecting Iran's power abroad. Analysts say that the IRGC funds and supports a vast network of militias across the region, which it uses to strike at U.S. and other military personnel across the Middle East. The IRGC is also believed to provide materials and support to Yemen's Houthis, enabling the group to strike international shipping in the Red Sea and launch missiles and drones at Israel. Salami was at the helm of the IRGC when Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel in April and October last year, in the first direct strikes by Iran on Israel territory. In footage released by Iranian state media in January, Salami was seen inspecting what the media said was an underground military facility that had played a role in those attacks. Wearing a green military uniform and short beard, Salami took the salute of soldiers in the Kavanaugh's underground complex and walked over the United States and Israel flags on the ground. The site was now manufacturing new special missiles, semi official Iranian media outlets says. Salami was head of the IRGC when it shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet shortly after it took off from Tehran's international airport, killing all 176 people on board. An unnamed IRGC commander on the Tor M1 surface-to-air missile defense system that shot down the plane was sentenced to 13 years in prison, according to Iran's Mer news outlets. So that's one of the commanders that was killed in that particular airstrike. And by the way, Iran's supreme leader appointed new military leaders to replace the assassinated top commanders. Israel's strikes on Iran killed several Iranian commanders on Friday, including Major General Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's highest-ranking military officer, and Major General Hussein Salami, who was the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, an elite wing of the Iranian military. All right, let's look at what has happened. All right, the replacement process. Basically, we'll get on to other persons who were killed by the Israel military attack. Commander-in-Chief of the RGC, Major General Hussein Salami, is now replaced by General Mohammed Pakpour. All right. Major General Hussein Salami, who was killed by Israeli forces yesterday through the strike, is now replaced by General Mohammed Pakpour. All right. Major General Mohammed Bagheri is one of the persons who were killed in that strike. Major General Saeed Abdurrahim Mousavi is replaced. It's touted to replace Major General Mohammed Bagheri. All right, Major General Mohammed Bagheri is one of the commanders that were killed in the strike and is now being replaced by Major General Saeed Abdurrahim Mousavi. All right. So let's talk about Major General Mohammed Bagheri. Since 2016, Mohammed Bagheri had served as the Chief of Staff of Iran's armed forces, which ISS estimated could call on more than 500,000 active personnel. The General Staff is the most senior military body in Iran, which implements policy and monitors and coordinates activities within the armed forces, according to the U.S. Treasury documents laying out sanctions against Bagheri in 2019. Bagheri was sanctioned along with 9 others close to Ayatollah Khamenei, who have for decades oppressed the Iranian people, exported terrorism, and advanced destabilizing policies around the world, the document says. Photos published by Iran's Tanzim news outlet showed him allegedly meeting with the Iranian troops fighting on the ground alongside government forces in Syria in 2017. In April, Bagheri met Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman Al Saud in Tehran, in rare visit by a senior Saudi royal to the Islamic Republic. The next month, Reuters reported that during the meeting, the Saudi Defense Minister had delivered a warning to Bagheri. Take President Donald Trump's offer to negotiate a nuclear agreement seriously because it presents a way to avoid the risk of war with Israel. Well, I'm not sure he did take that, because if he did, I'm not sure this particular strike would have happened. So the next person who had been killed in that strike is actually Ali Shamkhani. Ali Shamkhani was a close aide to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and represented Tehran at talks which sealed a landmark agreement to restore diplomatic ties with foe Saudi Arabia. Iranian state TV network Iran confirmed his death following Israel's unprecedented strikes on Friday. Shamkhani served as the country's top national security official for a decade from 2013, and before that served in a number of important roles, including in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and the Ministry of Defense. He had been a rising star of Iranian diplomacy, well known in foreign policy circles in Washington and Europe. Shamkhani represented Iran in China, brokered talks with Saudi officials that led to the two countries agreeing to re-establish diplomatic ties after years of hostilities. But he was abruptly replaced in May 2023. The former national security chief was ambitious, experts say, and had an extensive portfolio. He ran for president in 2001 to held key posts in IRGC and the Defense Ministry. Some analysts suggested at the time that Khamenei may have thought him too ambitious. Still, he remained a close aide to the supreme leader and gave advice as Iran re-entered nuclear talks with administrations of the U.S. President Donald Trump. In April, days before talks with the U.S., he warned Tehran could expel UN nuclear inspectors and seize cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, in it feels under threat. The next on the list of generals killed by Israeli airstrikes, the death of Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the commander of the IRGC's Air Force, is a major blow to Tehran. Hajizadeh headed the country's missile program, which was involved in defending the country's airspace and carrying out attacks overseas. Hajizadeh was the mastermind of Iran's previous attack on Israel in April 2024, as well as the missile attack on a U.S. base in Iraq in 2020. The Israeli military said Hajizadeh was killed alongside other senior Air Force leaders in a strike as they gathered at an underground command center. And so it goes. We also know of the replacement. Like I mentioned, Iran had almost immediately replaced all of the commanders that have been killed. All right, let's run you through some of the ones that we know so far that has been replaced. The military generals. Mohammad Bagheri, the commander-in-chief of Iran's military, second highest commander after the supreme leader, who was killed in that strike, is now replaced by Abdurrahim Mousavi. Abdurrahim Mousavi is now the second in command to Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. So Hussein Salami is the commander-in-chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's primary military force. He was killed in the Israeli airstrike and is now replaced by Mohammad Pakpor. All right. Bolamani Rashid is the deputy commander-in-chief of the armed forces, killed in that Israeli airstrikes. He's been he's so far not been replaced as of this time. Golamali Rashid is deputy commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's been killed in that airstrike. So far, he's not yet been replaced. Amir Ali Hajizadeh, leader of the airspace units of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, was killed in that airstrike and yet not replaced. Ali Shamkhani, senior former Navy commander, was overseeing the nuclear talks with the United States, was killed and yet not replaced. I mean, as information comes, we're going to give you up to date. Feridun Abbasi, a former head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, was killed, not yet replaced. Feridun Abbasi, former head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, was killed. He's a nuclear scientist. Let's put it out there. He's a nuclear scientist. Mohammad Mehdi Tehranji is a physicist and president of the Islamic Azad University in Tehran, was killed in that particular airstrike. And as for this time, It is not in any way replaced by the leaders in Iran. Israeli strikes on Friday morning dealt a major blow to Iran's military chain of command by killing at least three of its top generals, along with a senior politician and at least two nuclear scientists, according to Iranian state media and officials. Israeli military confirmed the deaths of the three Iranian commanders. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, moved swiftly to replace the military leaders in an apparent bid to project stability and prevent a power vacuum. At least one other top general was killed, according to the Israeli military, a claim that Iran did not immediately comment on. And so, for those who have been killed, just to also remind you, Major General Mohammed Bagheri is the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces and the second highest commander after Ayatollah Khamenei. He was replaced by Major General Abdurrahim Mozavi, according to Iranian state news agency IRNA. So, to tell you the extent of the devastation that these killings have happened or has dealt with. I mean, imagine if it's a presidential form of government that we see mostly in Western countries, vice president of a country have been killed by Israeli airstrikes, and the head of the military of that country and the air force is being eliminated by these airstrikes. It is a devastation, and there's nothing like this in a scale. I don't think there's anything, any attack that has happened by Israel on Iran that has been of this extent of devastation. They've never had this type of devastation before, and so one would think that it is going to be troubling in days ahead. I mean, it's already happening. We've seen the barrage of rockets going into Israel from Iran, and it does look like Iran is calling for help from their ally, Russia. They might also be calling help from help from different parts of the country or the part of the world, including China. And you never know. This can get us into a third world war, even if care is not taken. All right. Let's tell you some other persons who have been assassinated in that particular Israeli strike. General Hussein Salami, Commander-in-Chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Iran's primary military force. He was replaced by General Mohammed Pakpour, IRNA reported. General Gholam Rashid, Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. That's General Gholam Rashid, Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, was also killed in that strike, but hasn't yet been replaced. The head of the aerospace unit of the Revolutionary Guard, General Amir Ali, is also assassinated in that particular airstrike. That's General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the head of the aerospace unit of the Revolutionary Guard, was also assassinated in that particular story. And then politicians who were part of those who were assassinated, Ali Shamkhani. Ali Shamkhani is one of Iran's most influential politicians and a close confidant of Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed according to three senior officials and Iranian media reports. He had been overseeing nuclear talks with the United States as part of a committee named by the Supreme Leader to direct negotiations. So there's already a talk with the United States to basically have this deal pulled through. But some persons would say that Iran has been stalling and has not been serious with coming through to talk about the deal. Some would say that, well, with this strike, it almost seems as if it's the U.S. that has delayed, and it has always been planned so as to force Iran into accepting to get to the table to do a deal. So whether this would escalate and will make Iran push back, or would even be worse, it's left to be seen. Because again, like it or leave it, Iran doesn't look like a country that want to bow to any form of signings or any form of deal with the West because they feel that they have the rights to do whatever it is that they want to do to develop any chemical weapon or whatever weapon that they want to develop, just as the U.S. or Israel have got the right to do that. So, but the U.S. has kept on the pressure and to making sure that they come to the table with a deal that would be subservient to what they really want. But over time, we've seen how this has played out. But this is going to be more than just an escalation. It is going to be devastating. I really don't know where this is going to end. I really don't know where it's going to end. I really don't know where it's going to start. This is reminiscent of what has happened in Gaza, especially with Hamas. Israel went for the leaders of Hamas and took them out. And as soon as they were taking them out, Hamas was replacing them, and Israel was eliminating them. So whether Israel has the wherewithal, to continue eliminating those that have been replaced is left to be seen, because I'm sure that it was orchestrated, it was planned one step at a time, and it is unbelievable the precision at which the Israelites used in targeting these people and taking them out. It's shocking. The number of people who may have been involved, the intelligence that has been involved by Israel that may have been deployed in taking these guys out. It's stunning. It's stunning, really. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, and like I mentioned, the politician who has been taken out is the guy who was appointed to speak to the U.S. regarding the nuclear weapons. Ali Shamkhani was also killed in that particular strike. Maybe the idea around the killing of that man was because he doesn't seem to want to come forth, or he doesn't seem to agree with some of the things that have been put forward, and so that's the reason why there's this pushback regarding that. Then these nuclear scientists who have been killed, Feridun Abbasi, the former head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, Mohammad Mehdi Taranji is a theoretical physicist and president of Islamic Azad University in Tehran. All right, that's actually what we know with this latest development. But let's go to Iran's retaliations. We've seen the number of persons and the number of people who have been basically posting pictures and videos from the ground in Tel Aviv. Of course, Israel is fortified with its with this defense system. It's hard for you to strike Israel without having its defense system activated up to the point of countering whatever attack that you may have pulled out towards them. But it does look like some of the things that have been sent into Israel, some have escaped this defense system, and there might be a problem with people being attacked inside Tel Aviv. Iran has launched a barrage of missiles at Israel. Air raid sirens have been heard across the country, including Jerusalem. Multiple injuries have been reported in Tel Aviv. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has vowed to destroy Israel. I mean, we've heard that over and over again. I'm not too sure that is ever going to happen anytime soon. The strikes were a retaliation to Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities early on Friday. Those attacks came after Iran had fired dozens of drones at Israel after vowing severe punishments. U.S. President Donald Trump had earlier warned that Iran must make a deal before there's nothing left. German Chancellor Merz has called for steps towards de-escalation. Iran, Israel, Lebanon, and Iraq have closed their airspaces. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington was not involved in the Israeli strikes on Iran. All right. Israeli military's home front command says civilians can leave bomb shelters after Iran's third barrage of ballistic missiles on Israel. It's been unprecedented all through the last 7 hours. It's a barrage of non-stop missile strike. Jeez, I can imagine where that is coming from. The heart where that is coming from. It's crazy. Okay, so the IDF in Israel is actually asking that its citizens stay close to the bomb shelters. Some of the missiles were intercepted. Search and rescue forces are currently operating in a number of locations across the country in which reports of falling projectiles were received. Israel's emergency service, Magen David Adom, said that one of its mobile units was hit by shrapnel in the Tel Aviv area, and 2 crews sustained minor injuries. All right, that's the latest as it relates to the retaliation by Iran. Sirens and explosions were heard over Jerusalem early on Saturday morning as Iran launched a fresh wave of missiles on Israel. Once again, millions of Israelis are currently running for shelter as sirens sound all over Israel following another missile launch from Iran, the Israel Defense Forces IDF posted on X. And there's this visuals going around on social media, especially X. That's from the IDF. Just in case you don't know, on X is at IDF. It says, once again, millions of Israelis are currently running for shelter as sirens sound all over Israel following another missile launch from Iran. And, we talked about precision. And we know in things like this, in times like this, sometimes you don't just leave anything to cart or you don't leave everything on the table. You want to be precise. Israel did not target the civilian population in Iran. They targeted specific people and eliminated them, and also targeted some facilities. So, but in retaliation, Iran is targeting several locations in Israel that are populated by civilians, which is not right because that can also trigger some other things. I mean, if you look at the reds all across, there are a barrage of reds. Imagine the trigger of the sirens that is going on right now in Israel with the number of missiles thrown into Israel from Iran, and then you are pulling off all of these reds across Tel Aviv. I mean, it's technology, right? But it's a possibility that the number of missiles sent by Iran might overwhelm, the defense system. Yes, you could say that the level of impact might not be much, okay? But there's a possibility that with the number of missiles being sent, it will be very difficult, for the defense system to be able to contain it. So that's the reason why the IDF sent this tweet some few hours back. It says, once again, millions of Israelis are currently running for shelter as sirens sound all over Israel following another missile launch from Iran. All right. Israel's defense system were operating to intercept the missiles, it said. Iranian state media also announced new strikes on Israel. A new round of Iranian missile attacks on the Zionist regime begins, Iran state TV said, adding that the attacks were being launched from the capital, Tehran, and Kermanshah, a city in western Iran. And so far, we're also seeing that Iran's ambassador to the United Nations has said that Israeli strikes on Friday have killed at least 78 people and injured more than 320. So far, he says, 78 people, including senior military officials, have been martyred and over 320 others injured. Amir Saeed Iravani told an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Iravani added that the overwhelming majority of them are civilians, including women and children, describing Israel's strikes as a barbaric and criminal attack. He also said Israel was engaging in acts of aggression that targeted civilians and military sites in several cities. Iran's authorities, meanwhile, have activated air defense systems of the capital Tehran to counter potential further Israeli strikes, according to Iranian state media. The official IRNA news agency said Tehran's defenses reactivated minutes ago to confront Zionist regime projectiles. All right. It's just a story that's trending right now. But let's just tell you what has been destroyed so far. Iran has told the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, that a section of the uranium enrichment facility at Natanz was destroyed by Israeli strikes. At Natanz, the above ground, a part of the pilot field enrichment plant, where Iran was producing uranium enriched up to 60%, has been destroyed, IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi told a meeting of the UN Security Council. Now, according to the World Nuclear Association, nuclear reactors for civilian use require uranium to be enriched from 0.7% to 3 to 5%. Uranium needs to be enriched to 90% to reach weapons grade levels. The Natanz facility is Iran's largest uranium enrichment site, the Israel Defense Forces IDF said. The IDF also said the underground area of the site was also damaged. According to the Associated Press news agency, large parts of the Natanz facility are built deep underground so that they are out of reach from missile attacks. Grossi said all the electrical infrastructure and emergency power generators had been destroyed. He added that the nuclear watchdog does not have any further information about damage or casualties at this stage. The head of the IAEA warned against any attacks on nuclear facilities, warning of potential serious radiation consequences. And of course, as usual, the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, addressed the Iranian people. You know, I don't know if it is something that the Prime Minister always does, and maybe it is something that they have read within themselves and say the Iranian people do not like their leaders. And so whenever these kinds of strikes happen, they tend to release a statement saying that they are with the people of Iran and that the problem is their leader. You know, and I don't know if in any way there is some truth in that. You know, every time that we see these attacks happen, Netanyahu just says, look, Iranian people, we had to do this for your sake. You know, your leaders are not good for you. And so it goes. But again, your strikes have killed more than 78 people who are civilians who have nothing to do with this. So what is the justification for, killing civilians, Anyways, in other development, 2 U.S. officials have said that the U.S. military helped shoot down missiles fired by Iran towards Israel on Friday. One of the officials who spoke to Reuters news agency on condition of anonymity said that the interception had been done by defense systems on the ground and that fighter jets and warships had not yet been used. AFP news agency also cited an unnamed U.S. official who said Washington was assisting Israel in shooting down missiles fired by Iran. It was unclear from where the U.S. interceptions had taken place. There are nearly 40,000 American troops in the Middle East region, in addition to air defense systems, warships, and fighter jets that are equipped to down missiles. The U.S. military has used jets and warships to help down Iranian missiles fired at Israel during previous escalation. Of course, when you are in some way an ally to a country like Israel, you've got to help them to fend off the so-called enemy. In other developments regarding this, Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz said that Iran had crossed red lines by targeting civilian areas in its missile strikes on Israel on Friday evening. Iran launched a barrage of missiles and rockets after Israel had fired a wave of strikes on a series of targets in the Islamic Republic. Iran has crossed the red lines by daring to fire missiles at civilian population centers in Israel, Kaz said in a statement. So this is the escalation now. So I always want to say that sometimes when you do certain things, endeavor to make sure that you expect the other person to do the same thing or maybe do worse than you have done. When you attacked and killed the heads of these military leaders in Iran, what were you expecting? And of course, remember, these attacks are not just isolated attacks directed at these military heads. There are attacks that are directed at civilian population because the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations have stated that more than 78 persons and over 200 persons were injured. More than 78 persons were killed that are civilians. So firing to civilian locations in Israel, I mean, is justified. Everything is now right now on the table because you did not target. You were not careful with your target when you targeted Iran. So why would they be careful with targeting certain places in Israel? So when you have these things, that is not well articulated coming from Israel, it does look like, well, we can do this, you cannot do the same thing that we have done to you. It's neither here nor there, and it's very important that these things are put in perspective. Mimi B says, did Israel expect a standing ovation after committing yet another crime against international law? All right. That's from Mimi B. Did Israel expect a standing ovation after committing yet another crime against international law? All right. Of course. I mean, you don't expect Iran to be quiet after you have killed more than 78 persons, according to the UN ambassador, the Iranian UN ambassador to the United Nations. You don't expect him. You don't expect to target civilian locations, and they wouldn't target civilian locations in your area. I mean, everything is right now on the table. Every cause is on the table. Civilian locations, military locations, facility locations is now right now on the table. I mean, it's terrible, really, and I really don't know where it's going to get to. I really don't know how it's going to end. But then again, we are in for another ride of chaos, just like we've seen on the scale of Hamas and Gaza, as the case may be. All right. Again, it says Iran has crossed the red lines by daring to fire missiles at civilian population centers in Israel, Kaz said in a statement. We will continue to defend the citizens of Israel and ensure that the Ayatollah regime pays a very heavy price for his heinous actions, the defense minister added. So we're expecting another, attack from Israel after this because, according to the defense minister, Iran has crossed the red line. Anyways, to some other developments, Israel says strikes dismantled uranium reconversion facility. Israel's military has said its attack on an Iranian nuclear facility dismantled the infrastructure used to reconvert enriched uranium. In a post on Telegram on Friday evening, the Israel Defense Force, IDF, said Israeli fighter jets had completed a strike on the Iranian regime's nuclear sites near Isfahan, which is about 350 kilometers, 250 miles southeast of the capital, Tehran. The strike dismantled the facility for producing metallic uranium, infrastructure for reconverting enriched uranium, laboratories, and additional infrastructure, the IDF said. The reconversion stage comes after uranium enrichment in the nuclear weapons production process, the Israeli military added. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, said it is aware of reports surrounding nuclear facilities at Isfahan and Fordow and is seeking information from Iranian authorities about any impact. Iran's atomic agency has acknowledged there had been damage to the nuclear sites at Fordow, south of the capital, and Isfahan. The damage was limited to areas that did not cause any urban damage in the case of Fordow. In Isfahan, there were also attacks on several points which were related to warehouses that caught fire. Atomic Energy Organization of Iran spokesperson Behruz Kamavandi says the damage was not extensive and there is no cause for concern in terms of contamination, he added. All right, we're also seeing that Iran strikes injure 5 in Israel. We've seen some destruction of buildings and houses inside Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel. The Megan David Adam MDA, Israel's medical ambulance and emergency service, said 5 people were injured in central Israel following the Iranian strikes. One of the injured is in moderate condition and 4 were lightly injured by a shrapnel. MDA said on X, the injured have been moved to 2 hospitals, it added. Israel's firefighting service said it was responding to several scenes in the Dan region as a result of the missiles fired by Iran. The Fire and Rescue Authority said firefighters are working in a high-rise building in Tel Aviv to rescue trapped people and extinguish the fire. The statement on Facebook added that the service was also responding to fires in northern Israel, in Jerusalem, and in the south after rockets landed in open areas. Oh well, it's just never going to be easy for both sides. Ayatollah is saying that he's going to destroy Israel. I mean, that's for somebody who has lost his heads of militaries who are his very close allies and confidant, is really hard and heavy to take at this time. But let's just tell you, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei vowed to destroy Israel following Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. In a televised address that played out while Iran was firing retaliatory missiles towards Israel, the Iranian religious leader said it started the work and started the war. They started the work and started the war. They will not allow them to escape safely from this great crime they committed, he says. He added, Iran's armed forces will act with determination and destroy Israel. And there are smoke right over Tel Aviv, quite frankly. Okay, so I'm seeing some reaction on the feed. This is from Antonio Vance. Says that's where the leaders are hiding. Antonio Vance also continued by saying, don't blame them. Valiant Thor says, I don't understand why so many Muslim countries want to fight Israel and yet do not aid Palestinians. That's an interesting comment. It's hard to actually aid the Palestinians because how are you going to get the weapons in there? I mean, Israel has that region covered, so much covered that it's watertight, that even if they miss something, they can capture it afterwards, because the entire place is wired. The Palestinian enclave, the entire place, apart from Gaza, the Gaza Strip alone, the entire Palestine is like Israel watches it every day, especially with what had happened some 2 years back, 7th of October, so 2023. So you you can't actually get weapons in there. You can't go through the sea. They have eyes on the sea. You can't go through the air. They have eyes in the air. You can't go through the land. They have eyes on the land. So how are you going to take weapons into Gaza? How are you going to help Palestinians to fight Israel? How are you going to do that? So the ones that Iran has been helping, I mean, look at the level of devastation. Hezbollah. Iran has been helping Hezbollah, and the help on Hezbollah hasn't really worked. Now Lebanon is included in the whole fight against Israel. So it is difficult to fight Israel when it comes to that. Even if the entire Muslim country comes together, it is tough, especially when you have the backing of the United States and the United Kingdom. So you can't get weapons down there. It is nearly impossible to get weapons into the Palestinian enclave. All right. A large plume of smoke was rising over Tel Aviv, though it remains unclear whether it was caused by incoming missiles or their interception. The Israeli military stated that Iran had launched missiles towards Israel. This was confirmed by Iranian state media, which reported that hundreds of ballistic missiles were fired from Iran, marking the beginning of Tehran's response to intensive Israeli airstrikes. The Israeli military has instructed the public to seek shelter in a protected space and remain there until further notice. Air raid sirens have gone off over Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and the military said missiles were fired from Iran. The military defense systems are currently active and working to intercept the threat. Sometimes, as someone who watches these things happen, especially in Israel, sometimes I ask myself, what is it like to live in Israel when all of these things are happening? What does it feel like? Because I mean, if today was a work day in Israel, you're rest assured nobody goes to work. If today was a day, maybe you probably go to Sabbath or you go to worship, you're probably not going to come out. I mean, your life would be stalled for the moment. The fear of coming out to be attacked by a missile will be palpable. So I'm just wondering, I mean, this is what Israel had faced in so many years with some of these attacks, coming into Tel Aviv, the capital, and some other part of Israel. So I'm just wondering, an average Israeli is already someone his mind is set for anything. Because if you have lived in that country for more than 10 years, 15 years, even if you're not an Israeli, you will set your mind to it that, look, you are in a territory that has so many enemies. There are so many enemies around you, and you are in a territory that you have to be extra double careful. Your security has to be top notch every single time. And that is the reason why I kept asking, how did security in Israel so breach, so open, that Hamas was able to gain entrance into Israel and practically killed 1,200? Frankly speaking, it keeps running through my mind that Israel is in the middle of these countries that hate it. And you know how it is, you hate something, but it's there, you can't do anything about it, right? So Israel is constantly on its toes when it comes to security. So they are practically very good when it comes to that. They've lived like that for so many years. And so how did Hamas attack them without them even retaliating? There was no, you know how attack happens, back and forth. Like Hamas had a field day on October 7, 2023, killing people, moving into houses from one place to another for hours. Nothing happened. So I keep thinking about it, given this development. And, I can imagine the trauma that most people are facing in Israel having to go through these. And so if this barrage of rockets keep happening, it means that for some other persons who want to go for several other things to do, to catch up with, you're not going to catch up with those things because, again, your day is knocked off because of the sirens, and of course of not just the sirens, but of course of the attack, that imminent attack from Iran. Anyways, the Israeli military has instructed the public to seek shelter in a protected space and remain there until further notice. Air raid sirens have gone off over Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and the military said missiles were fired from Iran. The military defense systems are currently active and working to intercept the threat. And of course, French President Emmanuel Macron has been speaking about these developments. French President Emmanuel Macron announced that a United Nations conference scheduled for next week on a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians has been postponed. While we have to postpone the conference for logistical and security reasons, it will take place as soon as possible, Macron said. The gathering, originally set for June 17th to 20th, was delayed due to logistical issues as members of the Palestinian Authority were unable to travel to New York. Macron, who had planned to attend on June 18th, has previously suggested that France could recognize a Palestinian state in Israel-occupied territories during the conference, a move opposed by Israel. Earlier this week, the administration of US President Donald Trump sent a diplomatic cable urging governments around the world not to attend the conference. So there's there's always going to be a problem with this conference because France has been in the forefront of asking Israel to sheath their sword to stop the killing in Gaza. So France wants to recognize Palestinian as a state. Israel is not taking it. Israel is not getting it. Israel is not in any way receiving that kind of information, or maybe looking to attend that kind of conference. But a two-state solution has always been on the table, right from 30, 40 years now, and Israel has constantly opposed it. And largely because, of course, they're also scared. You have a two-state solution. There are some parts of Israel that will be annexed. So with the attack, if, for instance, there were talks about a two-state solution giving, you would assume that Israel will accept it. You would assume that Israel would develop soft spot over it over a period of time. But with the attack on October 7th, it does look like it's not even on the couch. It's not even on the table. It's not even on the list of things to be considered. So it is crazily terrible. Iranian air defense systems intercepted unidentified projectiles over Tehran late on Friday, according to state media reports. Enemy projectiles were intercepted by the Tehran's air defense state news agency RNA said, with another agency ISNA reporting that the air defense systems of Tehran successfully shot down targets. But even as state media reported interceptions, there were reports of explosions in Tehran and surrounding areas. Iranian state media reported explosions on the northern and southern outskirts of the capital and at Fardal, near the holy city of Qom, a second major nuclear site which had been spared in the first wave of attacks. The Israeli military said that it struck an Iranian nuclear site in Isfahan. Earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel's operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this existential threats. So it does look like this is not going to stop anytime soon. It's not going to stop anytime soon. Israel's military on Friday advised citizens to remain close to protected areas and avoid public gatherings nationwide as it continues operations targeting sites in Iran. The Home Front Command has now instructed residents across the country to remain close to protected spaces. Public gatherings must be avoided. The military said in a statement that also went out as an alert over Israeli cell phone networks. An Israel military televised briefing cuts, official says, due to incoming Iran attacks. U.S. President Donald Trump told the Reuters news agency it was unclear if Iran still has a nuclear program following Israeli strikes on the country. Nobody knows. It was a very devastating hit, Trump said. Trump had said he was working to delay an Israeli attack to give diplomacy more time, but he now appears to be fully supporting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's actions. He said he spoke to Netanyahu on Monday and the U.S. knew everything and tried to save Iran humiliation and death. Okay, so there's now been a conflicting thought, because in the earlier post that I read, Marco Rubio says that U.S. wasn't aware of Israeli strikes, and now U.S. president is saying that they are aware. He said he spoke to Netanyahu on Monday and said, and the U.S. knew everything, and I tried to save Iran humiliation and death. Separately, Trump told news sites Axios he believes Israel's strike likely improved the chances of a U.S.-Iran nuclear agreement. Really? Think so? Maybe now. They will negotiate seriously. The U.S. and Iran began talks on a possible new nuclear agreement in mid-April. Iran insists on being allowed to continue enriching uranium for civilian purposes, while the U.S. insists on a complete halt to enrichments. So that is some of the details regarding this development. The Israel military says it launched strikes on nuclear and military sites across Iran, including in the capital, Tehran. Iran says civilian sites were also hit. It launched retaliatory drones, which the Israel military says it largely intercepted. So, of course, we know that the UN Security Council are going to be holding an emergency meeting regarding this development. The United Nations Security Council is set to convene in New York in response to Israel's large-scale attacks on Iran. The emergency session was requested by Russia and backed by China. The meeting follows a formal request earlier in the day by Iran, which called for urgent intervention or international attention to the escalating conflict. The Security Council has historically struggled to reach consensus on Middle East issues, largely due to the United States' veto power as a permanent member and close ally of Israel. And let's see what the countries are saying. UK, France, Germany are urging restraints. The leaders of Britain, France, Germany on Friday urged all parties to avoid further escalation following Israeli strikes on nuclear and military sites in Iran, according to a statement from British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office. Starmer held a joint call with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to discuss the situation. The leaders expressed long-standing and serious concerns about Iran's nuclear program and called on all sides to refrain from actions that could further destabilize the region, the statement added. The three countries and the United Nations drafted a motion approved by the International Atomic Energy Agency's Board of Governors on Thursday that found Iran in a breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. And of course, we've also mentioned to you that Israeli Army radio reported air raid sirens rang in the Galilee region in the northern Israel. The cause of the alerts was not immediately clear, but Israel's Channel 12 was reported that the Iron Dome defense system has intercepted 2 Iranian drones. Sirens were also heard in areas near the Lebanese border and the Israeli-annexed Golan Heights. Israel began striking Iran early on Friday, saying the preemptive and precise strikes targeting the Iranian nuclear program aim to prevent the Iranian regime's ability to build a nuclear bomb in the immediate time frame. And so it goes. We've told you some of the interesting development that we've been seeing for you across all spheres and all shutters. The people who have been killed, the top commanders in Iran who has been killed, and of course the people who have been replaced, they've been replaced with. Just in case some of you missed out on them, let's see if we can rehash that for you. It's just a crazy day, at work, having to see some of these developments really not looking good out there. The killing is unprecedented, and of course this strikes doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. And I just hope that everyone in some way exercise some measure of restraint so that these talks in some way would be will have a headway. So some countries have spoken about it. Ezekiel Benjamin says Palestine can never be a state by God's grace. Is there a reason why Palestine or Palestinians shouldn't deserve a state? Tell us what you think. Zidane says no, we don't want two states. We want only Palestine state. Okay, you want only a Palestine state. So what happens to Israel? When you say you want only Palestine state, are you looking at practically asking Israel to vacate that location? Or what exactly are you looking to do? Because again, these are actually what trigger some of these things that we see every now and then. What exactly is your thinking around that area? You don't want Israel to exist anymore. You want Israel to be out completely from that land. What exactly is your solution? Because a lot of persons have said two-state solution would actually work. Some others say two-state solution would not work. So why do you think that two-state would not work and you just want only a Palestinian state? Zidane, I'd love to hear from you. So Palestine, this one says that's Sim 1M, Palestine, one state, everyone there needs to live together. No Israel, no Zionism. Palestine, one state, everyone there needs to live together. No Israel, no Zionism. All right. Ezekiel Benjamin says that Palestine can never be a state by God's grace. All right. Antonio Vaughn says, I don't blame them. Iran has the right to defend itself. This is coming from Jay. Right. Thank you all for participating. You can drop your comments. Let's see how far we can go with these developments. All right. Let's just, of course, remind you of the latest. Iran's highest-ranking military officer, the head of its elite Revolutionary Guards Corps, and its Air Force, and a former national security chief have all been killed in Israel's unprecedented Operation Rising Lion. Their deaths will send shockwaves through the nation's military establishment and could seriously hamper the Islamic Republic's ability to respond to Israel's attacks. And we just let you know that Major General Hussein Salami is one of the persons who have been killed, one of the top commander. In fact, he is the second in command to Khamenei. Yeah, second in command to Khamenei. And it's so sad what has happened. And we also had mentioned to you there are other top military commanders that have been killed. He, as the head of the secretive Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Major General Hussein Salami was one of the most powerful men in Iran, overseeing its most potent military arm and reporting directly to its supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Born in 1960, according to a U.S. sanctions docket, Salami had headed the Secretive and IRGC since 2019. The position saw him helming one of the most powerful tools wielded by the Iranian state, which has been instrumental in crushing dissent at home and projecting Iran's power abroad. Analysts say the IRGC funds and supports a vast network of militias across the region, which is used to strike at U.S. and other military personnel across the Middle East. Also believed to provide materials and support to Yemen's Houthis, enabling the group to strike international shipping in the Red Sea and launch missiles and drones at Israel. Salami was at the helm of the IRGC when Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel in April and October last year, the first direct strikes by Iran on Israeli territory. In footage released by Iranian state media in January, Salami was seen inspecting what the media said was an underground military facility that had played a role in those attacks. Wearing a green military uniform and short beard, Salami took the salute of soldiers in the convener's underground complex and walked over the United States and Israel flags on the ground. The site was now manufacturing new special missiles, semi-official Iranian media outlet Mer News reported. Salami was head of the IRGC when it shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet shortly after it took off from Tehran's international airport, killing all 176 people on board. An unnamed IRGC commander of the Tor M1 surface-to-air missile defense system that shot down the plane was sentenced to 13 years in prison, according to Iran's Mer News outlets. All right. Israel's strikes on Iran killed several Iranian commanders on Friday, including Major General Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's highest-ranking military officer, and Major General Hussein Salami, who was the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, an elite wing of the Iranian military. And let's see who has been killed and who has been replaced. Major General Hussein Salami has been killed. He's been replaced by General Mohammad Pakpor. Major General Mohammad Bagheri has been replaced by Major General Saeed Abdurrahim Muzabi. All right. There are other persons who we have a little bit of their work in Iran. Major General Mohammad Bagheri. Since 2016, Mohammad Bagheri had served as the Chief of Staff of Iran's armed forces, which IISS estimated could call on more than 500,000 active personnel. The General Staff is the most senior military body in Iran, which implements policy and monitors and coordinates activities within the armed forces, according to a U.S. Treasury document laying out sanctions against Bagheri in 2019. Bagheri was sanctioned along with 9 others close to Ayatollah Khamenei, who have for decades oppressed the Iranian people, exported terrorism, and advanced destabilizing policies around the world, the document said. Photos published by Iran's Tasnim news outlet shows him allegedly meeting with Iranian troops fighting on the ground alongside government forces in Syria, in 2017. In April, Bagheri met Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman Al Saud in Tehran in a rare visit by a senior Saudi royal to the Islamic Republic. Next month, Reuters reported that during the meeting, the Saudi defense minister had delivered a warning to Bagheri. Take President Donald Trump's offer to negotiate a nuclear agreement seriously because it presents a way to avoid the risk of war with Israel. Ali Shamkhani. Ali Shamkhani was a close aide to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and represented Tehran at talks which sealed a landmark agreement to restore diplomatic ties with foe Saudi Arabia. Iranian state television, IRINN, confirmed that's Iran now, his death following Israel's unprecedented strikes on Friday. Shamkhani served as the country's top national security official for a decade from 2013, and before that served in a number of important roles, including in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and the Ministry of Defense. He had been a rising star of Iranian diplomacy, well known in foreign policy circles in Washington and Europe. Shamkhani represented Iran in China broker talks with Saudi officials that led to the two countries agreeing to re-establish diplomatic ties after years of hostility. But he was abruptly replaced in mid-2023. The former national security chief was ambitious, experts say, and had an extensive portfolio. He ran for president in 2001 to held key posts in the IRGC and the Defense Ministry. Some analysts suggested at the time that Khamenei may have thought him too ambitious. Still, he remained a close aide to the supreme leader and gave advice as Iran re-entered nuclear talks with the administration of US President Donald Trump. Amir Ali Hajizadeh. The death of Amir Ali Hajizadeh, commander of the IRGC's Air Force, is a major blow to Tehran. Hajizadeh headed the country's missile program, which was involved in defending the country's airspace and carrying out attacks overseas. Hajizadeh was the mastermind of Iran's previous attack on Israel in April 2024, as well as the missile attack on a US base in Iraq in 2020. The Israeli military said Hajizadeh was killed alongside other senior Air Force leaders in a strike as they gathered at an underground command center. So it's a whole lot, ladies and gentlemen. It's a whole lot that is really going on between Israel and Iran. It is not in any way something that would end in a short period of time. It is going to continue, as we have seen that Israel is very angry at the fact that Iran has launched weapons and launched missiles on civilian locations across Israel. And they are not going to take that lightly. They have said that Iran has crossed the line. That means we expect other attacks. Tehran launched retaliatory strikes against locations across Israel on Friday, following Israel's attacks on Iranian military and nuclear targets. Iran said Friday evening local time that it had fired hundreds of various ballistic missiles towards Israel in what it called the beginning of its crushing response. Moments ago, with the launch of hundreds of various ballistic missiles towards the occupied territories, the operation of decisive response to the savage attack of the Zionist regime has begun, Iran's official news agency RNA reported. Iran claimed that it struck Israeli military industrial centers used for producing missiles and other military equipment, adding that field reports, satellite imagery, and intercepted intelligence indicates that dozens of ballistic missiles effectively hit strategic targets. Following the barrage, Israel's military claimed that Iran fired fewer than 100 missiles towards Israel and only landed a few hits. Some of those hits were from interception debris. Effie Defering, spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces, said in a video statement. The United States helped Israel to intercept Iranian missiles on Friday evening, two Israeli sources have told the CNN. Other countries in the region also supported Israeli air defenses, one source said, in a similar way to how they had done in previous Iranian attacks on Israel. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said late on Friday that Iran had crossed red lines by firing missiles at civilian population centers and vowed it would pay a very heavy price for its actions. During the attack, Large, a large plume of smoke was seen from parts of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and there are also a large explosion could be heard in some parts of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and the video from Tel Aviv showed incoming rockets and smoke rising amidst the city's skyscrapers. At least 34 people have been injured in Gush Dan, according to the Israeli Emergency Service Magen David Adam, MDA. At least one woman is in critical condition and a man has been seriously injured, MDA added. Gush Dan, which includes Tel Aviv and Ramat Dan, is Israel's largest metropolitan area. Information on injuries from individuals' hospitals across the country suggests that there could be dozens of injured people in hospitals, some of which have not yet been included in the MDA's figures. About an hour after the strikes had begun, authorities told Israelis they could leave their bomb shelters. Some were seen taking shelter with their neighbors approximately 100 meters from where a missile landed. As the projectile made impact, a group heard a noise similar to a jet engine, then a large explosion followed by a similar one. Images and videos released by MDA showed civil defense workers surveying mangled cars and collapsed building facades in central Israel. The Iranian barrage came after Israel launched a massive two-pronged attack on Iran early Friday morning local time, with strikes aimed at destroying Iranian nuclear sites and decapitating its military leadership in Tehran. Israel's attack culminated years of threats and days of heightened speculation, but was executed without the blessing of Israel's closest ally, the United States. The Trump administration has stressed that Israel acted unilaterally and that Washington was not involved. In a speech posted Friday night, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke directly to Iranians, saying that Israel's fight is not against the Iranian people, but rather its government. More is on the way. The regime does not know what hit them or what will hit them. It has never been weaker, Netanyahu says. In April 2024, Iran launched more than 300 projectiles, including around 170 drones and over 120 ballistic missiles towards Israel, but 99% of them were intercepted by Israel's aerial defense systems and its partners, according to the military hierarchy. This is indeed a developing story. We'll bring you up to speed if there is any other thing that develops. We've told you the amount of the heads of military formations in Iran that has been killed and the ones that have also been replaced. We've also told you how Iran has been responding to Israel barrage of strikes and how Israel also has been responding. Israel have said that Iran have crossed the red line and they should expect more strikes. So it's not clear really whether Israel will be targeting the new people who have replaced the killed heads of military formation in Iran, which of course it has been the style of Israel in the past, given what happens with Hamas. After killing their heads, Hamas immediately replaced them, the Hezbollah, they replaced them almost immediately, and right after the replacement, it wasn't up to 2 to 6 hours. Those who were replaced were also targeted and killed by Israel. So it is not categorically clear what Israel is going to do with what Iran has done, crossing the red line, according to them. It's left to be seen. We'll have our fingers crossed. We'll bring you up to speed when any other thing develops. I want to say a very big thank you for staying tuned on this channel in the last 1 hour or so. It's been a fantastic time doing this with you. I'll see you on the next one. I'm Charles. Have a good morning.